But the female women owners, the female warung owners usually have essential guidance, usually in the form of a simple note consisting of prices attached to the wall. According to the chart above, female warung owners spend more time and work in the warung with an average index of 7.29. From inventory orders, open and close warung, solve minor problems, and also solve major problems. And this is the hour, the hour mostly our female warung owners spend in the warung from 8 to more than 12, more than 12 hours per day. And the opportunity to lead a business decision in family business, it's very rare occurrence for strategic decision to made solely by a woman. Yes, because warung start from the family and take a place in their house, right? So they need to divide the commercial area and also the private area. So in reality, the business decision it's made by consensus of the family. So the aspect of this decision to be warung owners, placing supply order, open and close warung, business mobility, and the average of freedom regarding women as business decision maker is 5.70 on average number. And the third one is role on business decision maker. We have two aspects that I measure. The first one is who take final decision on your business, and also how significant your role in deciding your business decision. The strategic business decision, like decision to be warung owner, and also open and close warung, and business mobility, involving general consensus between family, between warung owners and their family. It is because I have said impacting the domestic household. On other side, women have significant role when they should decide business decision. Yeah, like placing supply order, managing sales result. This is when women have maybe 100% business decision. And the significant when they discuss about strategic business decision, they need the opportunity of discussion. So the female warung owner have, yeah, I think more than five point to have a significant role in decide some business decision. So the last but not least is the contribution for family income. So on average, female warung owners contribute up to 56%. But in our recent study, maybe last year, right? Last year, our average female warung owners contribute more than 75% of the total family income. So the gender equality, yeah, take by women, I think. In this case, it can be argued that warung provides more than just extra income, since it proportionally exceeding other income that belongs to the spouse or other family. And when I asked to female warung owners, the income from the warung they use for consumption. 58% of female warung of their income are used for consumption, like for eating or for electricity and so on, and 48% for savings and investment. They have saving and investment. 26% for child tuition fee and for vacation, electricity and water bills, and so on. Okay, but we need to learn that warung's income fluctuates and depending on their sales. So because of that, they still need fixed income, usually from their husband or their spouse. Okay. Conclusion: as time goes by, women's involvement in the economic territory is not a taboo anymore. The women's involvement in the business can be seen in their initiative to become entrepreneurs and to be fully involved in every business process. And we should take note that the woman role in contribution to family income, it's more than 50% than their family members. Okay, I think enough. Thank you, Pak Arianto.
Thank you, Pak Jiwo.
Yes.
It's very interesting and important initiative of Warung Pintar. So if there is anyone wanting to ask question, please raise your hand. Oh, that's from Pak Eko Heru Prasetyo. Go ahead, Pak.
Hello, Mas Jiwo. Thank you for sharing your link. I'm really interested with the Warung initiative to empower women more. But I have one question, like when you're studying about the women who establish Warung in their home or in their, in the regions, like how do you position themselves as one of informal economy activities or as a legal activities? For example, like I think many warungs are not registering themselves in the, in the governmental bureau, for example. So yeah. How do you think this, maybe this informal economic activities affect the way ibu-ibu in your research doing their business by running the warung?
Okay. Yeah. I think I use bahasa kali ya supaya lebih clear. Jadi warung itu kan lebih cenderung memang benar-benar bisnis informal ya. Dan memang kalau dari Warung Pintar sendiri pengennya itu adalah paling tidak warung itu tuh menjadi lembaga yang bisa memang tetap secara informal kayak gitu kan. Tapi memang tetap bisa paling tidak tuh bisnis operation itu bisa stabil. Seperti itu Mas Eko. Semoga bisa menjawab kali ya. Gitu karena memang
di studi Mas Jiwo dan kawan-kawan ini apa juga nantinya akan mengarahkan gitu. Kalau sekarang mungkin memang warung-warung masih informal gitu ya. Dengan masuk ke digital gitu ya. Tentunya mereka ketika lebih besar lagi warungnya, otomatis mungkin akan ada exposure ke ya kita formalisasi warung-warung ini biar lebih tertata, catatannya lebih bagus gitu. Punya impact mungkin ke masyarakat hanya.
Okay.
Thank you. Before we proceed, if I may suggest, let's stick with English because this is recorded and this is going to be put as a archive for the conference. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sip. I think warung is still for even 50 years later, right? Warung still informal business, I think. So to make a formal way in business warung, it's very too hard. It is because the nature of warung, it's very informal, Mas Eko. So what Warung Pintar push to our warung is to make better operation. Yes, from the POS system, and also to get more inventory easily, and also the additional income, not just from buy and selling this inventory, but the product, digital product, and also the trade marketing in the warung and so on. So the warung, it's still and keep informal, but the operation will be modern, I think.
Mas Jiwo, if I can ask, so what is the smallest size of this warung? Like, Warung Indomie, for example, are they eligible for this cooperation? Or Warung Tegal, or very small informal warung?
I think to divide warung, we usually use the by size. How much their inventory.
Okay, so what is the smallest one?
The smallest one, I think less than 25 million income per month.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not income, but the onset. The revenue.
Oh, sales.
Yes, sales. The warung revenue.
Right. And usually your biggest clients, how big are they in general?
Okay. More than 30 billion.
Oh, yeah. So the variation is quite big, yeah?
Yeah, quite big.
Okay, but for the smaller ones, to continue Mas Eko's point, what do they need to provide you in order to be included in the system? Of course, first their identity, or KTP, for example, right? And then do they need to have business license?
No. They have
because
not
that's very informal, right?
Yeah, very informal.
Okay.
But but I think the more important than all of the formal formal identity, but I think the more important, it's the business operation, the business operation of warung. It's more modern. They have additional income and so on. But the identity, it's still informal.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there any other question or comment? We still have about 7 minutes.
Yeah, so to sum up, so the role of Warung Pintar in the warung business by women is not to formalize them. Instead, you are going to get the woman empowered by the power of
the system.
The
system and also the operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to ask this question, Mas Jiwo, do you get hassled by the government in a sense like, hey, Warung Pintar, you have to report everything to us. We have to monitor your activities because we want to make sure that all taxes are accounted for, something like that. Even though you're informal, your clients are informal.
Yeah, no.
You get that?
No.
No.
No,
all right.
We have a good relationship to several government. For example, to distribution to distribute the staple foods for society, and also the and also for warungs for warungs modal.
Okay. Okay. If there is no more question, no. Okay. Thank you, Mas Jiwo, for your presentations. Really informative. Thanks, Mas Eko, also for his participation. So let's now move to the second paper, and that is, hold on, the influence of land registration on per capita regional income in Indonesia by Aiman Akbar and Heni Wahyuni. Aiman Akbar is with the, both are from Universitas Gadjah Mada. Are they here? Aiman or Mbak Heni maybe who is going to present. Okay, go ahead, Mbak.
Okay, thank you very much, the chair. I'm going to present our research on the land registrations, the impact of the land registration on economic growth. Let me share our PowerPoints. Okay. So this is about the influence of land registration on per capita regional income in Indonesia. So we did the research with my college, Aiman Akbar, but probably because Aiman cannot come and join this IRSA conference, so I'm going to deliver the presentations. So the background of this research is we already know that there are increasing in per capita regional domestic product. Regional here means that a provincial domestic product, and also besides that there are increasing in the land registration and also the certified land area during the period of our research, which is 2010 until 2019. And also you can see that there is increasing land registration public expenditure during those period of time. So the increasing in land registration quite dramatically, it is 9 times. And for certified land area is 2 times, and 3 times for land registration public expenditure. Okay, and I might explain the mechanism how land registration will influence the economic growth. In this case is we use the per capita regional gross domestic product. So World Bank itself in 1975 land reform policy paper recommended, among other things, that land registration as a critical precondition for investment and modern economic development in the third world, so in the developing world, particularly Africa. And the undercapitalized nature of the economies of third world countries and the existence of high levels of poverty and underdevelopment to non-registration of landed property ownership. The Western world is highly capitalized and by implication making it a rich continent due to the fact that every landed property ownership is registered in a central system controlled by states. And besides that, landed property is the most basic aspect of subsistence for many people around the world. Therefore, a very strategic socio-economic asset, especially in poor societies or poor countries, where wealth and survival are measured by control of and access to landed property. And for this all previous statements and also previous studies, we try to have a look that in fact in Indonesia there is a gap in a research or study that measure the relationship between land registration and per capita regional gross domestic product. And we already know that there are many studies that have a look at the relationship between land registration and investment and so on. But there is a lack in research that see the relationship between land registration and economic growth. And we want to know that is there any indirect benefits of land registration for the community? So in this study, we want to have a look at does land registration increase per capita regional gross domestic product in Indonesia? And the sample that we are going to, that we use is all provinces in Indonesia for the period 2010 to 2019. Probably this is a simple conceptual framework that you can see that's how land registration might influence the economic growth. So here, land registration, we have land titles and tenure security and also efficient land markets. And on the side of land titles and tenure security will influence the increasing in labor mobility, the investment incentives, and also the creation of collateral value for land, leading to greater credit supply. And on the side of efficient land markets, we can see that it might influence the reduction in the transaction cost in land and credit markets, and also the increased labor mobility and the greater investment incentives. And also for the size of, in the left side, you can see that the increasing in the labor mobility will improve the cost and allocative efficiency in resources use, and the greater investment incentives will improve the investment. And on the other side, the reduced transaction costs in land and credit markets will influence transformation of land in a liquid assets, together with the creation of collateral value for land, leading to a greater credit supply. And also the reduction transaction costs in land and credit markets might influence the enhanced cost and allocative efficiency in resource use. And also this part also influenced by the increased labor mobility. And greater investment incentives will improve the greater investment. And all these mechanisms will influence, all these factors will influence the financial development, and finally will improve the economic growth. The data that we use is some data from the Statistics Indonesia, from the Central Bank of Indonesia, the Ministry of Agraria, and also the World Bank for all provinces in Indonesia. And the methods that we use is fixed effect model. Why we use these methods? Because we believe that there is a possibility of an unobserved heterogeneity that may influence the outcome variables. This unobserved heterogeneity among them, a geographical condition and a land area. So probably geographical condition and land area will influence the outcome variables, but because we don't have the data about these factors, so we put it at unobserved heterogeneity. And fixed effect model is one of method that might overcome the problem of the unobserved heterogeneity. And this is the model that we use. And this is the explanation about the variable, each variable. So we have the per capita regional gross domestic product in current price. And we have a mortgage land. We have a land registrations, yeah. And we have land registration public expenditure. And also another other variables is the ratio of investment on the economic growth or on the GDP. And we also have, as see here, is investment in human capital that might also influence the economic growth or the domestic GDP, the regional GDP. And we also include the ratio of trade, population, and the ratio of manufacture to regional domestic product. So our model based on Biamukisa, yeah, from 1999. So the results for our methods is here presented in this table. So only two variables here that influence the regional gross domestic product, yeah, which is which is the land registration itself, the key variable that we are interested in, and also the investment in human capital. Of course, we in this study there are some limitations, probably some problems that maybe we haven't overcome here. That's why the results only shows that there are 2 or 3, but it's only 10% significance level that are significant, statistically significant influence the regional domestic product. So we I already explained this, I think. Yeah. So I can conclude that this studies is one of studies that might can contribute in the knowledge and also the knowledge about the economic growth. One of important factor that influence economic growth, which is land registrations. And we also overcome the problem of unobserved heterogeneity by using the mixed effect method for 34 provinces in Indonesia for the periods of 10 years, 2010 until 2019. And in this study, we found that land registrations, also human capital, influence the GDP significantly. And as policy implications, we propose that the regional government can arrange a strategic plan to improve the regional economy by increasing number of land that has been registered within a district area. For example, through reactivation of land redistribution program, of land reform object. And this program tries to share and give rights on stranded land to society, especially farmers. And also the government may integrate the land registration program with another program, such as loan program for society. from the low economic background. So for this is also can improve the society to get the what we call it kredit usaha rakyat. Then it will help them to improve their business, and then after that can improve their domestic, the per capita domestic product. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mbak Heni. If I may ask for some clarification, what is the mechanism by which land registration can increase economic growth, or in this case, GDP per capita?
Yeah, so here it might not really clear here how the mechanisms, how the land registration influence economic growth. This is still a preliminary research from us, but we suggest that the mechanisms is through the credit. So if people people's land, especially farmers, the land has been certified, it means that easily for them to get a credit from financial institutions, for example, bank and so on. So it will improve their business. So through this investment mechanism that the land registration will improve the growth.
Yeah. So the reason I ask, because I understand the objective of the paper, the motivation of the paper is similar to Fernando de Soto's idea about land titling that you can use as collateral to get credit from the bank, right? But your estimation does not really show that relationship. It seems to me that your estimation is just to find an association between GDP per capita and whether or not the land is registered, right? And one variable is actually not significant there, and that is the mortgage land. So I don't know, do you have information about whether people actually apply for credit by using their land certificate as the collateral, or you don't have that information?
Yeah, we don't have that kind of data.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it's quite difficult. That's why we just assume that other data are unobserved. So that's why we, yeah.
Okay, I see.
Especially right. If we want to look for each province.
All right.
For each province. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I understand the problem, but
yeah,
unfortunately, yeah, we don't have that kind of data.
Right, right. Anyone wants to ask question or comments?
I'm sorry.
Is it difficult to get data from, what's the agency, the Badan Pertanahan Nasional? Oh, what is it? What's the relevant agency for this?
Yeah, Badan Pertanahan BPN. Yeah.
BPN. Do they issue like public data, or they don't?
Yeah, it's not all of the data they can provide, I think.
Okay, all right.
It's not a detailed data, especially if we don't have, I don't know, we don't have any, because this is like, probably we need some, I don't know, they don't, I think because we are not part of the PPN staffs.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Or the alternative is to actually survey the households, but it's difficult, and I think it's very costly.
Yes,
to go, to survey them and ask them if they have applied for credit using their land certificate as the collateral. Anyway, last chance. Any question? I don't see anyone. So thank you, Mbak Heni, for interesting presentation. All the best for your study. Let's now move to the last but not least paper in this session, in this parallel session 3, and that is modern slavery and business in Indonesia. This sounds really interesting. And this is from Ibu Susi Sarumpaet from Universitas Lampung, Katherine Christ from University of South Australia, and Roger Burritt from here, from Australian National University. Okay, so I assume Ibu Susi is going to present. Ibu, okay, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Adentro. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. I would like to present. I think I'll share the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you see the?
Yeah, but can you make it?
Okay.
Yeah, that one. That's
okay.
good.
Thank you. Okay, so this paper is not really finished actually, so we're still doing some more analysis, but we have done some part of the analysis. So I think comments, feedback are really appreciated, yeah, for improving our paper. So this is a relatively new topic, actually. I think, yeah. It's the definition is also not very clear, okay. But we use this definition: a collection of human rights abuses where party exercises power equivalent to that of ownership over another person. So we understand that in the past we know about traditional slavery, which involve actual ownership, but this modern slavery does not involve actual ownership. Yeah. However, the presence of threats and coercion mean the result is much the same. A victim unable to leave or an exploitation. I think we have heard some information or the news about the people who are slave in the like the vessel, the fishery industry. Okay, and modern slavery is found in every industry and country, even in developed countries like UK or Australia. But the practice is more concentrated in specific location and sectors. Southeast Asia is identified as the modern slavery hotspot, including, of course, Indonesia. So our research question is, what is the perception of modern slavery by Indonesian business managers? And actually, we started with coffee industry. So we not really all business managers. Then I think I will show you later. The key elements of modern slavery. First is the estimates is more than 20 million people enslaved in corporate supply chains worldwide. So it's not only in the companies, not only in the big corporations, but also especially even, in fact, in the supply chains. Yeah. And 354 billion US dollars of at-risk goods being imported into G20 countries alone. Okay, so beside G20 countries, there are more. Why we are focusing on G20 countries? Because they have the biggest share, yeah, of revenues. Okay, and there are more people enslaved in the world today than it is during the entire period of the transatlantic slave trade, like a long time ago. And every country and every industry is impacted by slavery to some extent. So if it's not in the corporation where the company is located, it's probably in the other areas where these companies procure their goods, yeah, their materials. So the involvement in modern slavery could be direct or indirect. Directly responsible for the slavery that occurs in relation to their suppliers or to the suppliers of the suppliers, okay? And at least suspected, yeah? So the business could have at least suspected such practices were occurring, even if they chose not to address the risk of human rights abuse. So even if a company doesn't want to do modern slavery, but they might not be aware when they procure the materials from other countries, then the modern slavery might occur in those countries. Peers in 2010 used the term willful blindness. So it's like business benefiting from worker exploitation in the supply chain while relying on this and turning blind eye, like they pretend that they don't know, but actually know where the material comes from, and modern slavery occurs in that area. And actually, there have been efforts to mitigate or eradicate modern slavery, such as transparency-based legislation. So in certain countries, large organizations are required to publish an annual statement outlining what they are doing to identify and reduce risk of slavery in their own operation and supply chains. These are the examples of modern slavery legislation in the US. For example, they have California Transparency in Supply Chains Act. And in the UK, they have Modern Slavery Act. So it's in the US, it's in 2010. So it's more than a decade. In the UK, it's about like 5 or 6 years ago. And Australia also now has the Australian Modern Slavery Act from 2018. And Canada and New Zealand are now considering to also have this legislation. And also the European Union Parliament, like a few months ago, they voted to adopt mandatory human rights due diligence requirements for companies. So they are going, yeah, they are ongoing. Okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
Is there no developing countries legislate Modern Slavery Act?
No, not yet. They perhaps something like maybe in child labor, right? Or human trafficking, but not using this term of modern slavery where like all kinds of modern slavery are combined together. Okay, thank you. And many countries crucial to Western supply chains have very different cultural, socioeconomic, and regulatory contexts that create a situation where slavery is more likely to occur. So why Indonesia? the world's largest island country by population, located in South Asia, and Southeast Asia is one of the hotspots, of modern slavery. And Indonesia has a lot of people. And this is a Muslim country with diverse and unique history and culture. And in 2013, actually, the Jakarta Post reporting there were 200,000 victims of modern slavery. But the absolute number of estimated victims is actually much larger. According to the data, the Indonesia basis is ranked at 114 out of 162. Modern slavery in Indonesia is generally underreported and underestimated, and is of great concern. The number of estimated victims has increased. For example, in 2012, Global Slavery Index estimated 1,220,000 people of Indonesia are enslaved, and the Indonesian government awarded a BB rating for the overall quality of its response to modern slavery. So there's still a lot to do by the government to eradicate or to combat modern slavery. In this research, the method that we're using is inductive narrative analysis case study in the coffee industry. So we narrow our research to coffee industry. And the analysis is based on contextual literature and face-to-face interviews of managers operating in and across different stages in the coffee supply chain. I will show you the diagram later. And this purposeful sampling of interviews is used to ensure views from across the supply chain. So we interviewed different people from different stage of the supply chains of coffee industry. And the unit analysis are manager perception of individual entities and the complete coffee supply chain. So here is the supply chain stage of the coffee industry. The farmer growing green beans. So we also interviewed some farmers, which also sometimes act as a processor as well, or even collector. So these are the stages: farmer, processor, collector, grader and trader, and roaster or grinder or packer, and retailer and coffee shop. So we have some managers from coffee shop, retailer, exporter, small companies, big companies, exporting to 160 something countries. So, but even we have a very small farmer. So the respondents are quite diverse. As we can see here, like I said, sometimes one respondent can act as three actor in the industry. For example, this first respondent, for example, he or she is a collector and roaster and retailer at the same time. But for example, respondent number 5 only acts as a collector. He or she only collected coffee beans, to be resale to the other party. We cannot mention the name of the business managers or the farmers in this research because it is confidential. Okay, here is the first result. The first is on the understanding of modern slavery and its term. In general, the respondents showed little or limited understanding about modern slavery and its terms. For example, when I asked them, do you know modern slavery? They would say like, not really. Like, and when they are asked about whether they know about forced labor, child labor, or bonded labor, they have limited understanding on these terms. Those who had heard of or understood the term mostly were not unable to provide a clear definitions or examples. Like if they are asked examples of forced labor, for example, they would explain the situation in the colonial era during the Dutch colony. So it's quite different actually. And only 2 respondents from larger companies with international market had a better grasp. These are companies who export their product to tens or even hundreds of countries, including more developed countries where modern slavery act have been implemented. So perhaps the target, the export company, the importing companies in the importing countries have required these companies to provide some reports or information on modern slavery risk and management. And the term most frequently mentioned by the respondents are these 3 terms: forced labor, child labor, and debt bondage. On the existence and problems of modern slavery in Indonesian business, there is a vagueness and ambiguity of the definition, but the majority of respondents did not believe that modern slavery occurs in Indonesia. This is really the case of many Indonesians. Even when I talk to government officials, for example, they don't believe that modern slavery exists. Yeah. Despite the reports from international organizations such as Global Slavery Index. This is the situation right now. And respondents also showed a lack of confidence when asked whether modern slavery is a problem in coffee industry. Most of them say that modern slavery is not a problem because they don't see it occurs. And they mentioned something about e-zone in especially in the farming stage. Probably we know that e-zone is a creditor relationship, but they also said that this e-zone relationship is happening also in other agriculture industry. Okay, the result on the entity's formal policy and codes of conduct. Only 2 managers. I think these are the managers that I mentioned before from large companies who one is owned by a foreign countries and foreign investors, and the other one is owned by private shareholders. But the one that's owned by private shareholders is exporting to 154, I think, countries. Yeah, they said that the organizations have a formal policy. Yeah, and this policy is written, and also they have code of conduct on modern slavery and human rights. So out of 16 interviewees, we have 2 large companies who have the formal policy and codes of conduct on modern slavery and human rights. And these policy and code of conduct are disseminated to all stakeholders, from business partners through the websites and WhatsApp and other media they use to inform the stakeholder, including employees, customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. And the respondents gave different reasons, but most of them actually say that modern slavery is not a priority. It's not the most important thing to their business at the present time, and they are still focusing on the economic aspect of the business. The result on the modern slavery practices and awareness of the industry standards and guidance. So the previous one is the organization policy. This one is the standards and guidance from the industry. So most respondents says that the operations are not involved in any forms of modern slavery. That's what they say. And one respondent actually say that the strategy to avoid modern slavery lies in the process of recruiting high quality and well-educated employees. So they think by recruiting high quality and well-educated employees, it's one way to avoid modern slavery. And the other said that they treat employees like family members, like they stay in their house, eat the same food with them. And they said this way of treating employees is the way they understand and respect human rights without having to formalize terms or policies in the organization. So there's no written policies, there's no code of conduct, there is no industry standards or guidance, but as long as you treat your employees like your family members, so you will be away from modern slavery. And in general, respondents were concerned about the other aspect of the business, such as economy, quality, quantity, and price, because the coffee industry is booming, and the competition is becoming tough. Yeah. On the modern slavery practices and awareness of industry standard and guidance, whether these respondents are aware or they have practice. They said that modern slavery is not something they have to worry about or that existed within the organization and its supply chains. The reasons, first, is not because they don't follow the development of industry standards and regulation. I mean, the one which is happening in international arena. And second, they do not have a policy or practice to identify or mitigate the risk of modern slavery in their entities. And also, some respondents said that the government, local or national authorities, were focused more on minimum wages. And this is, according to Caraway, this issue has been used by political leaders as an issue to gain the sympathy of the voters. So they don't really focus on other terms or other aspect of modern slavery, but they just normally focus on these minimum wages. On the awareness of modern slavery regulation in Indonesia and abroad, respondents show lack of attention to regulation on modern slavery and human rights. And one possible reason is they do not believe such regulation will impact on their business. So most of the respondents have only small scale of operation, or they don't really export their product to other countries. So they think even if modern slavery regulation is implemented in developed countries, they won't be affected by regulation. I think they don't understand that this modern slavery regulation have a due diligence process. It is required by these countries that implemented modern slavery regulation. So with this due diligence procedures, the companies or the organizations in the countries who are affected by the regulation will have to make sure that their suppliers are also free from modern slavery, or at least they have to identify whether modern slavery occurs in the area where the material comes from. So the respondents do not realize these things, and most respondents instead strive to improve their business by focusing on product and service quality, quantity, customer loyalty, as well as employees and farmer welfare among the respondents. Okay, so on the discussion part, we have, I think, small discussion part. We see that Indonesia is known as a major source of modern slavery, actually, based on the data, yeah, in international data. But it is hidden, yeah, hidden because people don't realize or deny, yeah, even though the evidence suggests it's present, especially in agriculture area. Based on this study, perception of manager in the coffee industry, modern slavery in the form of extreme form of child labor does not exist. They don't believe that child labor exists. Child labor on farms is perceived as normal practice, where children help parents working on the farm after school hours, and school must be attended as this is a government requirement. So because they said there's a government requirement to put children at school, so they think that child labor doesn't exist. As conclusion, we conclude that there's a growing international concern about modern slavery, as we presented in the first part of this presentation. And research is required into awareness raising at two levels. First is between the government policy level and the enforcement of legislation and managers in the supply chain, and also between the downstream and upstream stages in the supply chain. And we see that manager not being aware or acknowledging the existence of forced, bonded, and extreme forms of child labor in the coffee supply chain or in the coffee industry. And we think that building awareness would be a first step towards overcoming the feeling that ignorance is bliss in the context explored. Yeah, I think okay. The next conclusion is most managers interviewed were not familiar with the term modern slavery, and respondents seem unprepared for the potential need to demonstrate action taken to mitigate modern slavery risks Yeah, even to they're not even prepared to face the modern slavery legislation happening in the importing countries, right? Because this is potential for them actually. And two possibilities for enlightenment: building awareness at the village level, introducing and enforcing developed countries' legislation to make business accountable by and bring pressure to bear upstream. So if we cannot do from the village level or from the suppliers, then the importing countries need to make sure that their business are accountable to report or identify modern slavery in their suppliers. And if we want to expand this study into other industries besides coffee, so I think we have to be careful not to transfer this narrative or conclusion of this study without seeking further evidence. And these inductive narrative interviews depend on the selection of people to be interviewed. So yeah, this is, I think, the limitation of this study because of the way we choose our sample might have some bias in the result. Yeah, but I think that's how qualitative research we have to choose the sample, not like quantitative method where we use a lot of observation for our research. Yeah, I think that's all I can present now, and we welcome questions, comments, and feedbacks from audience. That will be very useful because we, like I said in the beginning, we haven't really completed our paper, so we really appreciate if you can give some comments and feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Susi. Very fascinating work that you've done, and I think it's in the frontier. Like I can imagine it's very difficult to get that data on this. I welcome question and comments. First, Pak Budi Resosudarmo. Please, Pak Budi.
Thank you. Let me start by asking a question, and hopefully others will follow. First of all, interesting presentation, Mbak Susi. So the debate of whether child labor is a kind of modern slavery or not in developing countries is quite rich, and even some of the more like not an extreme but just a mainstream or common labor economists could not easily judge whether child participation is a kind of slavery or not. So I guess to develop further this research, a more clear definition, particularly for developing country, to be able to categorize certain activities as a modern slavery is important. So particularly the word slavery has a connotation is that you are asked to do something that you don't want to. So that whether you would like to put that as the definition, you would like to debate. But however, adopting a parameter that has been used in developed country might not be 100% accurate. So that is on the division. And second is on the research, rather than asking people whether they understand modern slavery or not. The question, probably easier the question by asking whether this event happened or not. So for example, you ask a family and ask that where is there any cases in which your children doesn't want to work, but they were forced to work? So then it will be much clearer whether people are no, or whether modern slavery is happening or not. So clarification on those things probably will help this research. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Budi. Silakan, Ibu Susi, if you can respond to those questions.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Pak Budi. Your feedback is very, very useful. I think, actually, I've been also thinking the definition, like that Ijon, for example, whether they do it voluntarily or because they have no other way to fulfill their needs. For example, when because they mentioned when one of their family member is sick, for example, that they have to get money, and they will go to the collectors to get money, and then later on they will be paid by the crops, during the harvest time, at the price that they cannot control. We have, I think, we have to make a clear definition, which probably is different from that of the modern or developed countries. So thank you so much. I think we have to really dig into the literature and also ask. I have to go back to the respondent, I think, to ask.
Bu Susi, sorry, before we go to the next question, can I just jump into that point about definition? Do you think it's helpful to, I mean, including in the developed countries, they use this term modern slavery, but it can mean a lot, right? It's very broad definition. Modern slavery can mean human trafficking, forced labor, debt, bondage, child labor, forced marriage, and sex trafficking. So a lot of activities, but defined with an umbrella term called modern slavery. Do you think it's helpful, or do you think it's better to have like clearer identification, clearer definition? Like, for example, when you talk about child labor, it's the definition we use is that, the child doesn't want to work, but is forced to work for whatever reason, right? And then you go to the field to ask this question, not using the term modern slavery, but ask the real situation on the field. Do you think that's a better approach?
Yes. I think that's also what has mentioned by Pak Budi, I think, rather than asking whether they know or they don't know about these terms, forced labor, whatever. It's better to ask whether the event or modern slavery occur or not, whether they have this activities or event that involve modern slavery, I think. But the thing is, I'm actually from accounting discipline, so our focus was about reporting. Companies have to report or make statements on modern slavery, and now also the global reporting initiatives are also starting to include these modern slavery terms in their standards. So many more companies will be affected, not only those mandated by the legislation, by the government, but also I think many other corporations worldwide, even though the GRI standards are not mandatory and they are more voluntary, but I think the pressure will be more when it's already in the GRI. So we are not really going into things like forced marriage, Pak Arianto, because these are not really in the business area, or it's not going to be in the company's report.
Right.
Yeah, but that's why we I think we select the terms of modern slavery into what are going to be put in the company reports, or in the legislation, or in the GRI standard.
Yeah, I think it's just unfortunate that these international organizations and even many developed countries, you know, this is the trend. They use like buzzword to mean so many things that when it comes to research, or even trying to identify what's going on in the ground, it's very difficult for us, right? Because it has so many dimensions. But now, because all these reports mention about modern slavery, we have to do something that is consistent with whatever it is, right? This happened already. I'm not criticizing. I mean, there's a lot of good initiatives, and I admire your work. But this happens in other fields also. No? Sustainable development can mean anything, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes. So broad.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but again, I really appreciate what you've been doing. So maybe we have one more or two. We can have two questions. There is a question or more comment. Pak Budi, you have a follow-up question? No? Okay. So I think the time is up. We need to wrap up now. Once again, thank you so much, Ibu Susi, and all the best for your further work, and for other presenters also, Ibu Heni. Thank you for your presentation, Pak Jiwo, and also other contribution from other participants. And thank you so much. So see you again in the next session, and maybe tomorrow.